I am here with your disability rep, Roy Rickstrew. Good to see you, Roy, as always. Yeah. We're going to talk about things when it comes to, Social Security, the claims, things like that. And it's about the job that you may or may not have had in past life.
Yeah, that's correct. So with the Social Security Administration, they'll gather medical records. They make a decision about what they think you can do despite your condition. They call it a residual functioning capacity is the official term.
Okay.
And so they compare what it is that they think you can do from the medical record review to what bosses require of employees at a minimum. And that, in a nutshell, is how disability is determined. So if you have the ability to meet the minimum standards of employment, they deny you. If you can't meet the minimum requirements of what bosses want of you, then they approve you. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the way it works. And we're going to talk about that jobs aspect of it today.
Okay, how is the criteria set? It can't just be like an objective, I think you could do this.
Well, that's correct. And that's what these two books actually relate to. The bottom one there is the Dictionary of Occupational Titles. The top one is the Selected Characteristic of Occupations. These books have been used by the program for decades. There's some problems with them we'll talk about in a moment. But this is kind of the basis, the heartbeat, if you will, of that vocational analysis. So what they do is they look at every job in the national economy, and supposedly this big white book has every job in the country in it.
Okay.
They don't look at whether or not the job exists here in Springfield or in the area. They don't look at whether or not you've done the job before exactly, or if you may like the job, or if it pays well enough to meet your bills. They're just looking if there's a job in that book that they can put you back to.
Right. I assume that is regularly updated because if you're talking it's been around for decades, we have a few new jobs around.
Well, that's correct. There'll be jobs in there you never heard of, too, because these are things that have aged out of the job market. They don't exist any longer. So think about asbestos tile inspectors, for example. Right, asbestos has been gone since the early 80s. Typewriter repairmen, TV repairmen, things like that still appear in that book. There's light bulb inspectors, even though we've went to primarily, LED type bulbs at this point. But it classifies the skill level, so how detailed oriented the work is, how hard the work is from a mental standpoint. And then they also look at how physically demanding the job is as well. And so the big white book gives you some insight into the job duties and the responsibilities of that work.
All right, I'm seeing a big blue book there too, though.
Yeah, so it's the Selected Characteristic of Occupations, and there we're going to see the physical and mental aptitudes that are necessary to do the job. So we're going to see how much handling, reaching, feeling, how much eyesight, visual accommodation, color vision, depth perception is necessary for the job. We're also going to see environmental exposures. So pulmonary irritants, dust, chemical exposure, and then hazards as far as moving machinery or vibration or chemical exposure, things that are bad for us.
Right.
They all appear in this book as well.
So this, what these all feel like, to me anyway, is an objective look at something. Not very subjective, though. Yeah,
that's correct. The idea was to try to apply some sort of scientific reasoning to it to make it more universal across the entire program. And where we kind of see this come into play is if you've got a history of carpal tunnel syndrome and you're going to return to a receptionist type job, we understand there's going to be a lot of fingering and a lot of feeling that goes in that job because we're typing, right?
Yes.
So if we have limitations in our ability to use our hands, then that's something that could play in to your decision, and these books kind of help to guide that discussion.
Okay, does this lead into possibly a different profession? You could do this, however.
Yeah, that's correct. So, if you had that same individual with carpal tunnel, you may be able to put them to work at Chuck E. Cheese as the ticket redemption clerk, for example, where you cash in your little tokens, because there's not nearly the degree of handling, fingering, feeling that goes into that job. There are some jobs like walking fields to see if crops have come up, for example, that doesn't really require any handling or fingering.
Right.
Same thing with monitoring the security system at the mall, where you sit and watch a bank of televisions to see if there's theft. You don't really have to use your hands at all. You sit and watch TV all day. And so that, this is kind of the idea, is that we look to work around each of your conditions to see if we can put you back to work. And if we can't, then we pay you.
All right. It's pretty simple in that way, though, but it's still a process. And I'm looking at the book there, and basically, you have to know how to maneuver around war and peace, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's problems with the book. There's a lot of discussions about this. Old jobs that have been removed. In 1998, they updated it and added new jobs, but didn't include them in the book. In 2024, they took 114 jobs and eliminated them. They haven't revised that book since 1991. They've just made changes, and if you don't know if those jobs are on the elimination list or the addition list, there's no hope of figuring it out from the book itself.
And that's why you find someone who understands how it all works.
Yeah, and this is probably the biggest failure point in administrative hearings for folks. They have a vocational expert that testifies in those hearings about these jobs. They use other references that are out there as well. And you just don't really understand this if you do your own hearing. This is why we need to get help.
Okay. People want to be able to talk to you, find out more, maybe look for your help. How do they get it?
417-812-6698, direct to my desk. That's the best way. Just give me a call. Set up a time, we get together and chat and kind of figure out the course that's best for your case.
All right, there he is, Roy Rickstrew, your disability rep.